Hey guys, it's Monica at Academic Phoenix Plus and welcome to another tutorial. This time we are going to be doing studio lighting for this Audi TT. In the last tutorial we talked about car shading and how we can add flakes to our shader and just kind of do some basic shading on our vehicle. And now I want to demonstrate to you guys how to light it. Right now this light just has a basic Arnold sky dome. And if you guys go to Arnold Lights, physical sky, it will show up. However, we want to create a type of studio lighting that you can see in any type of photography shoot for a vehicle. So when you take a look at lighting for a vehicle, you will see a couple of major aspects. One is that it has a gigantic light source coming from above so that it picks up those beautiful highlights. And you'll see that in a lot of pieces. Here's another example of that. And you also notice that it's got some sort of almost like an infinity curve, which we need to create as well. And finally, we also have lighting on the side to kind of bring out almost like a rim lighting. So we want to make sure that it really picks up those beautiful lights and shows off the beautiful curvature of the vehicle. So let's go ahead and do just that. All right, so the infinity curve, let's delete this plane, or you can hide it, whatever you like. I'm going to go to the side view. And I'm going to create a curve tool. It's going to be the EP curve tool. And I'm going to start up here. Just hold down shift to make a straight line. And as you start getting closer to the curve, you're just going to let go of that shift and just kind of create an inv curve. Now, it's not very pretty right now, but I'll fix it in a second. Hold down shift to make a straight line and enter when you are done. Now, I do want to remind you guys that I do have a version of this type of tutorial at Academic Phoenix Plus, but it's one of my most popular tutorials, but it's also a little bit outdated, so that's the reason why I'm creating this one. So using Arnold lighting so that I can be consistent. I'm crushing the vertices flat. That's what you're seeing here as I just kind of making sure that they're flat. And I'm going back in here and just making sure that it's actually curved. So I just get a nice slope. All right, once I'm done, object mode, let's go back here. And we should need to duplicate this one, Control D, select these two, and we're going to go to curves and surfaces and use what's called loft. Loft will give us geometry. Cool. All right, let's rotate this depending on how you want the car to look. So maybe the lighting should go in this direction, right? So then that way I can see the car, and then I have my infinity curve. And maybe I'll push this back a little bit, make it bigger. All right, we're going to try to match our reference. So let's go to Arnold Lights, area light. And as you can see by this area light, there's a little line sticking out of it. And that is the direction of the light. So let's bring this in. Let's change this to -90. Let's make it pretty large and as big as the car. And then this way, maybe bigger, something like that. By the way, this studio lighting will be fine for any object, so don't be shy about using this on another object. Once you create the studio lighting, you can basically put any item in here, which is really convenient. All right, let's render, and you'll notice because I removed the dome, it's not really reflecting anything. You can see just a tiny little bit of color, but the reason why is because it's not very intense. Now, we've scaled it, so if we check off normalize in the area light, there we go. Now we're getting the results. And look how pretty that is already. It just gives you that nice highlight in the car. Okay, maybe I'll make it just slightly bigger, slightly wider. Just want to make sure it picks up everything. Cool. Arnold light. Let's use another area light. This time, I'm going to put one right over here. Duplicate this one and flip it over. Might be a good idea to type it in. There we go. And same story with this one. We need to go to the attributes, turn off normalize. Pretty sure my car's in the grid, so it should be working, and let's render. All right. So you can see where the light source is coming from, and just want to make sure that the sides of my car is getting seen. I'm starting to see some flaws in my texturing, so that's okay. That's an easy fix. I think there is something in here that needs, almost looks like there was something in here that needed a color, but oh well. All right, I'm going to pull back and just kind of get a nice angle. My car is floating because it's magical. Let me just bring this up a little bit, try to intersect it. Just a little bit. And now we are starting to get a nice looking render. It shows off the car paint, it's showing off your model, and it's very, very appealing. All right, so that is the basics of that. Let me show you how to change some color so it's not so flat looking. So this is the top light. You might want to just leave it white. That's okay. And maybe increase the intensity or the exposure. So the intensity, of course, is how bright the light is. The exposure just takes the intensity and like exponentially increases it. So if I put in a 1 in here and I render over here, it's now a lot brighter. And also notice the infinity curve. It's kind of nice and smooth. It's looking cute. All right, let's add some color. So there's a couple of ways you can add color to your light. You can either add it here yourself, or you can use color temperature, which uses Kelvin. So the warmer it is, the cooler, the color turns a little bluer, and the warmer or the colder the temperature is, the warmer the color is. So you just want to put a tiny little bit of color in there, maybe a little bit of the warm side. Well, yellow usually represents warm for us, but in Kelvin it's actually colder, which is always really interesting. So it's a very subtle change, but it kind of adds a little bit of, right here, can you see how it's changing the color? It just adds a little bit of color and diversity to it. Let's go to area light 2. I'm going to add in this. I'm going to make it cooler. Well, the color's cool. The temperature's hot. I might want to increase my exposure to all of them just so that we can see the car clearly and there's nothing really blocking it. So I'm increasing the exposure. So now it's a little bit brighter. And next is going to be the noise. The noise is an issue when it comes to area lights and Arnold. So to increase the quality of the render, it's going to slow things down, but the quality is going to be significantly better. So what we want to do is, there's a couple of things we want to do. The first one is increase our samples. So right now my samples are at 1 of the light. So I'm going to increase it to 3, and I'm going to do that to every single light. So that's going to help get a little bit more information in the light and shadow space so that it looks at that area a little bit longer. And therefore it's going to take longer to render, but it's going to look nicer. So already we're getting some nicer quality renders right here. But that's really not enough. We really need to push this further by going into our render settings. So I'm going to go to my render settings. Actually, I'm going to pause and let this render so we can compare time. I will be right back. All right, so that took 37 seconds, not too bad. But we really want to get a higher quality render. And remember, this is just an HD 540, it's not even 720. So if I scroll down, the preset is always HD 540, at least with Maya 2018 and 19. And in Arnold, click on the tab here, I'm going to increase my camera AA to 5 and then increase my diffuse, specularity. I do have transmission. I really don't have subsurface, so I'm leaving that as is. And I don't really have volume, so that's okay. And then I'm also going to turn on adaptive sampling and enable it. I'm going to do 10. That's still pretty high. But what's interesting about the enabling adaptive sampling is that Arnold's really intelligent and knows areas that might need a little bit extra samples. So it will just go in and start adding even more. Now, just keep in mind that the calculation for this is that it is going to take the samples of the light and then basically exponentially increase it by 5. So the higher these values are, the longer that render is going to be. So what I'm going to do is leave it at this, and I'm just going to let it render. I've only changed these settings. I haven't changed anything else. So I'm going to let it render, and I will be right back and we'll take a look at how long it's going to take. So far, it's stuck at 12. So this will take a few minutes for sure, but we'll see how long it takes. I'll be right back. All right, so that took about 5 minutes and 35 seconds. So it exponentially increased the render significantly. This is just one frame, but look how nice and beautiful the render is. You've got some really nice smooth shadows here. We have no noise, and the highlights are looking nice. And then, of course, whoops, let me just get a little closer here. We get less noise along here as well. So that is a quick introduction on how to create a studio lighting for a vehicle. Again, you're more than welcome to use this for anything, including objects, your characters, and so on and so forth. This applies, you can really tell the reflections on how beautiful it is with a car. So thank you again for listening. I really appreciate all your support. Let me know if you guys have any questions. And of course, feel free to leave comments below. And also don't forget to check out academicphoenixplus.com where you can find free downloads, ebooks, videos, and more. And also, if you think this is helpful for somebody, I would love it if you shared it. Thank you again, everybody, and I will see you next time.